Nearly 3 decades ago, I stood beside this lake. I was fresh out of college, about to begin a career that would occupy a huge part of my life. I had no idea where it would take me or how quickly those years would pass. And then I left, for decades, until now. I came back to Rocky Mountain National Park to walk the same trail, climb the same mountain, and stand beside the same lake again. I wanted to see what had changed and maybe find out what hadn't. But first, I had to get there. Rocky Mountain National Park stretches across the Continental Divide in northern Colorado, where dense forests and river valleys give way to alpine tundra and towering peaks. As you climb, the landscape changes dramatically, eventually opening up into vast, exposed terrain above the tree line. Trail Ridge Road crosses through that landscape, climbing to more than 12,000 feet before descending into the quieter western side of the park, and that's where I was headed. I pulled my camper van into Timber Creek Campground and recalled that the last time I camped here, it was in a tent on the ground. I spent the evening exploring some of the trails near the campground, including a stretch along the Colorado River. This is very close to where the Colorado begins its long journey west. Here, near its headwaters, it's little more than a peaceful mountain stream. It's hard to imagine that this is the same river that, hundreds of miles downstream, helped carve the Grand Canyon. I slept well that night. The next morning, it was time to head for the Timber Lake trailhead just a short distance away. I still have a photograph of the trailhead sign from my first visit, taken with a film camera. At some point in the past 30 years, the sign had been upgraded. 30 years ago, there was a note posted warning of recent mountain lion attacks in the area, discouraging anyone from hiking alone. I remember staring at that sign for several minutes, second-guessing my decision to hike solo. I proceeded anyway. This time, a new warning was waiting for me. A massive landslide in 2011 had taken out part of the trail, leaving a quarter-mile section treacherous. Once again, I wondered whether proceeding alone was entirely sensible. And once again, I proceeded anyway. The Timber Lake Trail is an out-and-back hike, 5 miles each way, starting around 9,000 feet above sea level and climbing another 2,000 feet from there. It's a workout, especially for someone who lives near sea level. As I worked my way up the trail, there were moments that felt familiar. The forests, the streams, the bridges, the sound of water rushing down from the mountains. Then I reached the landslide. Part of the mountainside had simply fallen away. There wasn't really a trail through this section anymore, so I carefully picked my way across, watching every step. Once I made it across, the climb continued. And so did the mosquitoes. I don't remember mosquitoes being a problem on my first visit, but I will definitely remember them from this one. Eventually, after hours of climbing, I got my first view of the lake. There are plenty of details from my first hike that I've forgotten over the years, but I remembered this view. Timber Lake looked remarkably similar to the lake I remembered from 30 years ago. And standing there, I began to realize that the landslide was almost the exception. Yes, part of the mountain had fallen away, but most of what surrounded me looked much as it had 30 years earlier. The mountains, the forest, the water, the lake itself. 30 years had transformed my life, but up here 30 years didn't seem like very long at all. I had an old photograph of myself standing beside the same lake on my first visit. Back then, I spent hours here relaxing by the water without much urgency to leave. This time, the mosquitoes made that considerably less appealing. So I stayed for a while, took it all in, and then eventually started the long hike back down. The first time I came here, I had just finished college and was about to begin my career. When I returned, I had just finished that career. Everything that happened between those two hikes, the people I met, the places I went, the experiences I had, was still somewhere in the future for the person in that old photograph. And I thought about all the other people who had walked this trail during those same years. I don't know when I'll next visit Timber Lake, hopefully in less than 30 years. But standing there again made me think about how differently we experience time. 30 years can contain an enormous portion of a human life, but to these mountains, it's almost nothing. Long before I first climbed this trail, Timber Lake was here. And long after I'm gone, chances are it will still be here, looking much as it did the first time I saw it. And there's something comforting about that. For a few hours, 30 years apart, my own path happened to bring me here twice. And for a little while, I got to stand in the same place I had all those years ago and think about just how much ground I'd covered since.